Revelation Unraveled, Part 8, Purpose of Prophecy. The third part of the book of Revelation, also called Apocalypse, contains prophecies concerning the end times, or as the author St. John says, the things which must come to pass hereafter. Beginning with chapter 6 and continuing through chapter 20, 15 chapters inclusive, St. John describes many terrifying trials for mankind and for Christians, in particular, before Christ establishes a new heaven and a new earth. These 15 chapters are completely different from the other chapters of Revelation. The first 3 chapters contain letters from St. John written to 7 churches in Asia: Ephesus, Smyrna, Pergamum, Thyatira, Sardis, Philadelphia, and Laodicea. These letters are all straightforward accounts, without any mysterious allegory or symbolism. No exegete ever bothers to analyze them in any way other than how they are expressed, except to say that the churches no longer exist. If Revelation as a whole is a warning to the faithful, the disappearance of these Christian communities should remind us that our visible church will also cease to exist. In my own Catholic diocese, Syracuse, New York, already 1/3 of the churches are closing. During the reign of the Antichrist, all remaining hot places of worship will close or apostatize. The 4th and 5th chapters introduce the reader to a different type of presentation, which is mysterious, puzzling, and full of symbolism. First, there is the mystery of 4 creatures with 6 wings who worship before the throne of God. This can be explained, if an explanation is possible, because heaven, like other events in the future about to be described, is inherently mysterious. Next, we are introduced to the Lamb, who stands for Jesus, our Messiah, although the name Jesus is never mentioned. Instead, the Lord is depicted as the horn of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, the Lamb that was slain, and the Redeemer. He is also expressed by various adjectives and attributes, such as worthy, power, divinity, wisdom, strength, honor, glory, and benediction. It is becoming evident that the book of the Apocalypse is really a poem. And one explanation for all this mystery and symbolism is that these are devices a great poet always employs. Until now, however, Revelation has remained largely hidden for several more important reasons. First, as other authors have noted, the events described could apply to many past trials and tribulations. Since Christianity and paganism can never coexist, previous skirmishes were but previews of the final battle. As in the book of Esther, the struggle between good and evil is always relevant, especially for Old Testament Jews, but also increasingly relevant in these end days. All true prophecy becomes more relevant as time goes by. Second, until only very recently, people could not comprehend how specific calamities such as ICBMs, nuclear war, 200 million man armies, etc., might possibly occur. Therefore, St. John wrote about these woes in mysterious terms, which could only be unraveled at the appropriate time. That time is now. Third, the purpose of prophecy is not to establish that the prophet can see into the future. Prophecy is a warning from God that he intends to punish people. In what form this chastisement will take, why he is punishing, and how to avoid it. This last salvific gift from God is the most important purpose of prophecy. When Jonah warned the city of Nineveh of its imminent destruction, the whole city repented, from king to slave, and even the animals were clothed in sackcloth. God relented, and Nineveh was spared. Prophecy is successful when the prophesied calamities are prevented. Sometimes good people are called not to repent in order to avoid chastisement, but to escape instead. Noah built an ark to survive the great flood. Lot and his family were led safely out of Sodom and Gomorrah. And Jesus warned that before the Romans destroyed Jerusalem, Christians should read the signs and escape to the hills. The book of Revelation is no different, except that the destruction will be the greatest chastisement God will ever mete out to the world. As Jesus said, the end times will be worse than men have ever seen before or will see again. Obviously, it is important that we know when the time is ripe and what we must do to escape. These 15 end-time chapters, which provide the answers, were never meant to always remain a secret. For those of us living in this last generation, now is the time predestined for their unraveling.